You don't talk much. Maybe you've heard that sentence more times than you can count. Sometimes it comes as a joke. Sometimes it comes with confusion. Sometimes it sounds almost like an accusation, as if your silence is something that needs to be fixed. But what most people don't understand is that quiet people are not always quiet because they have nothing to say. Sometimes, they are quiet because their nervous system has already read the room before their mouth says a word. They notice things. The tone behind someone's voice. The way people laugh a little too loudly when they are trying to hide discomfort. The small pause after a sentence. The fake warmth. The social pressure. The emotional temperature of the room. And before they decide to speak, a deeper part of their mind is already asking a question. Is it safe to be myself here? This is why quiet people can seem like two completely different people depending on where they are. In one environment, they may barely speak. They sit at the edge of the group. They listen more than they contribute. They smile politely, answer when spoken to, and look like they are distant or uninterested. But put them around the right person, and suddenly everything changes. They become expressive. They tell stories. They laugh with their whole face. They share thoughts they never revealed in public. They become playful, intense, sarcastic, deep, even surprisingly loud. And someone always says, "I thought you were quiet." But they were never quiet everywhere. They were quiet where their brain did not feel invited to relax. Modern psychology explains this through something often connected to psychological safety. People open up when they feel that their words will not be judged, twisted, ignored, mocked, or used against them later. The human brain is social, but it is also protective. It does not only ask, "Do I want to talk?" It asks, "What will happen if I do?" For some people, that question became important very early. Maybe they grew up in a home where speaking honestly created tension. Maybe they were interrupted so many times that silence became easier. Maybe they were made fun of when they showed excitement. Maybe their opinions were dismissed. Maybe they once trusted the wrong people with a real version of themselves, and those people made them regret it. So now, they do not give their words away quickly. They scan first. They observe. They wait. Not because they are cold. Not because they think they are better. Not because they are socially broken. But because their mind learned that expression has a cost in the wrong environment. Imagine someone walking into a room full of people talking over each other. One person is bragging. Another is performing confidence. Someone else is making jokes at another person's expense. The energy feels sharp, competitive, unstable. A quiet person may not say, "This room feels emotionally unsafe." They may not even think those exact words. But their body understands. Their shoulders tighten slightly. Their words become shorter. Their face becomes more neutral. They start observing from behind their eyes. And people misread it. They call it shyness. They call it arrogance. They call it being antisocial. But often, it is something far more complex. It is emotional intelligence mixed with self-protection. Quiet people often have a strong sensitivity to social signals. Their brain picks up patterns quickly. They notice who dominates conversations, who listens, who interrupts, who needs attention, who uses humor to control the room, who pretends to care, and who actually does. This does not mean every quiet person is secretly analyzing everyone in a dramatic way. It simply means they are not careless with their presence. They are selective. And selectiveness is often misunderstood by people who confuse constant talking with connection. But talking is not always connection. Some people talk all day and reveal nothing real. They fill silence with noise, but never offer honesty. They know how to perform closeness without creating trust. Quiet people often sense this. That is why small talk can feel exhausting to them. Not because they hate people. Not because they are incapable of being social. But because they feel the difference between conversation and connection. They may sit in a crowded room and feel completely alone, not because no one is talking, but because no one is being real. This is one of the most misunderstood parts of people who don't talk much. Their silence is not always empty. Sometimes it is full of perception. They are noticing the emotional gap between what people say and what they mean. They are watching the way someone's smile disappears when nobody is looking. They are sensing the tension hidden under polite words. They are picking up the invisible rules of the room. Who is allowed to speak? Who gets ignored? Who is performing? Who is pretending? Who is safe? And until they understand the room, they do not rush to reveal themselves inside it. Because for them, speaking is not just making sound. Speaking is letting a part of themselves become visible. And visibility requires trust. This is why quiet people often become louder in private than they ever are in public. In private, there is less performance, less pressure, less emotional competition, less fear of being misread. When they are with someone who makes them feel accepted, their guard starts to soften. Their thoughts come faster. Their humor appears. Their inner world opens. And suddenly, the same person who seemed distant in a group becomes warm, funny, intense, and deeply present. That version was not fake. The quiet version was not fake either. Both are real. They are just responding to different levels of safety. This is important because many quiet people spend years thinking something is wrong with them. They wonder why they cannot be the same everywhere. Why they freeze in certain groups. Why they overthink after speaking. Why they rehearse sentences before saying them. Why they can talk for hours with one person but feel invisible around 10. But this does not always mean they lack confidence. Sometimes, it means their nervous system is highly context-aware. Confidence is not just about believing in yourself. It is also about being in an environment where your mind does not feel the need to defend itself. That is why the wrong room can make an expressive person seem silent. The wrong people can make a thoughtful person seem boring. The wrong energy can make a warm person seem closed. And the wrong reaction, repeated enough times, can teach someone to hide the most interesting parts of themselves. So the next time someone says, "You don't talk much," maybe the real question is not, "Why are you so quiet?" Maybe the better question is, what kind of environment makes you feel safe enough to speak? Because silence is not always a personality trait. Sometimes, silence is a memory. Sometimes, it is a boundary. Sometimes, it is the mind protecting the self from places where authenticity has never been welcomed. And if you have ever felt like people only see the quiet version of you, stay with this video. Because in the next part, we are going deeper into why quiet people often have rich inner worlds, why they choose their words carefully, and why their silence can become one of the strongest signs of self-respect. If this is already making you think about yourself or someone you know, subscribe to Mind Motive Theory and keep watching, because understanding quiet people may also help you understand the hidden architecture of human identity. Quiet people often have inner worlds that are much louder than their outer behavior. From the outside, they may look calm, neutral, or hard to read. But inside, there is movement. Thoughts are connecting. Patterns are forming. Memories are being compared. Emotions are being measured before they are expressed. This is one reason why people who don't talk much can seem mysterious. They are not always reacting immediately because they are processing more than what is being said. They are reading tone. They are noticing timing. They are asking whether the conversation has depth or only noise. They are deciding whether their words belong in that moment. And this is where people often misunderstand them. In many social environments, speed is mistaken for confidence. The person who answers quickly seems smarter. The person who speaks loudly seems more certain. The person who fills the room seems more present. But the brain does not always work best at the speed of social performance. Some people need space before they speak because they do not want to offer shallow reactions. They want their words to match what they actually think. This is not hesitation. It is precision. They are not empty. They are editing. Quiet people often have a strong internal filter. Before speaking, they may ask themselves questions without even realizing it. Is this worth saying? Will this be understood? Do I trust this person with this part of me? Am I speaking because I mean it, or because silence makes other people uncomfortable? That last question is important, because many people talk not because they have something real to say, but because silence exposes them. Silence makes them feel awkward. Silence makes them feel unseen. Silence makes them feel out of control. But quiet people often have a different relationship with silence. They do not always see it as a problem. Sometimes, silence feels honest. It gives the nervous system room to breathe. It allows the mind to observe without performing. It creates a pause between impulse and expression. And in that pause, identity becomes clearer. This is one of the most powerful things about people who don't talk much. They often learn to separate attention from validation. They do not need to constantly prove they are interesting. They do not need every room to notice them. They do not always chase being understood by people who are committed to misunderstanding them. That kind of restraint can look like weakness from the outside. But psychologically, it can be a sign of self-possession. Self-possession means you do not abandon yourself just to be accepted. You do not betray your natural rhythm just to match the room. You do not force your personality into a shape that makes other people more comfortable. And for quiet people, this can become a quiet form of strength. But it is not always easy, because being misunderstood has a cost. People may assume they are rude. People may assume they are judging everyone. People may assume they are boring, insecure, cold, or uninterested. And because quiet people often do not explain themselves immediately, those assumptions can grow. The painful part is that many of them are not trying to reject anyone. They are trying to protect something. Their energy, their focus, their authenticity, their sense of self. Sometimes, what looks like distance is actually regulation. Their brain is trying to stay balanced in a world that demands constant access. Constant replies. Constant opinions. Constant availability. Constant expression. But not everyone is built to live with their inner world permanently exposed. Some people need privacy to stay whole. They need quiet to understand themselves. They need depth before they feel connection. They need consistency before they feel safe. And they need time before their real personality appears. This is why the right people experience a completely different version of them. When they feel safe, their silence softens. Their face becomes more expressive. Their humor appears without effort. Their stories become longer. Their thoughts become more layered. They reveal small details that most people never get to see. And when that happens, it is not because they suddenly changed. It is because the environment stopped feeling like a threat. The nervous system moved from protection into connection. That shift is powerful. In neuroscience, the brain is constantly predicting risk. Even in ordinary conversations, it is scanning for signs of rejection, judgment, embarrassment, or conflict. For some people, this system is more active because of personality, sensitivity, past experiences, or repeated social disappointment. So when they enter a space that feels fake, harsh, loud, or emotionally unpredictable, their system does not say, "Be yourself." It says, "Be careful." And careful people often look quiet. But careful does not mean broken. It means their mind has learned the difference between access and intimacy. Not everyone who talks to you deserves access to you. Not every room deserves your full energy. Not every conversation deserves your vulnerability. Not every person deserves the unfiltered version of your mind. Quiet people often understand this instinctively. They may not have the language for it at first, but they feel it. They know that words can build bridges, but words can also become evidence in the hands of the wrong people. They know that openness is beautiful, but only when it is met with respect. They know that being real in the wrong place can feel more lonely than saying nothing at all. So they choose carefully. And that choice is not always fear. Sometimes it is wisdom. The deeper truth is this: quiet people are not always trying to disappear. Sometimes they are waiting for a place where they do not have to perform in order to be accepted. They are waiting for conversations where honesty does not feel dangerous. They are waiting for people who listen without turning everything into competition. They are waiting for a connection that does not punish depth. And when they find it, they are not hard to reach. They are not emotionless. They are not empty. They are not distant. They are finally comfortable enough to be seen. So if you are someone who doesn't talk much, maybe the question is not, "How do I become louder?" Maybe the question is, "Where do I feel safe enough to become real?" Because your voice is not measured by how often you use it. Your value is not measured by how much space you take in a room. Your personality is not incomplete just because it does not announce itself immediately. There is nothing wrong with being observant. There is nothing wrong with needing trust before expression. There is nothing wrong with protecting your inner world from people who only understand noise. But there is also a gentle challenge here. Do not let the wrong environments convince you that silence is the only place you are safe. There are people who can hold your words with care. There are rooms where your thoughts will not be mocked. There are connections where you will not need to shrink, perform, or rehearse every sentence before speaking. And when you find those places, allow yourself to open slowly. Not all at once. Not for everyone. But enough to remind yourself that your voice still exists. Because the goal is not to become someone else. The goal is to stop confusing protection with identity. You may be quiet in some rooms. You may be selective with your energy. You may need trust before openness. But that does not mean you are hard to love, hard to know, or hard to understand. It means your inner world has a door. And not everyone gets the key. Some people don't talk much because they are shy. Some because they are tired. Some because they are healing. Some because they are aware. Some because they have learned that the wrong environment can make even the most expressive soul become silent. But when quiet people finally feel safe, they do not just speak. They reveal. And that is why their words often feel different. Because by the time they say something, it has already passed through thought, memory, caution, honesty, and meaning. Their silence was never the absence of personality. It was the protection of one. So the next time someone says, "You don't talk much," remember this. Maybe you are not too quiet. Maybe the world has become too loud to recognize depth unless it performs. And maybe your silence is not something to fix. Maybe it is something to understand. If this video helped you see yourself or someone else in a deeper way, subscribe to Mind Motive Theory. Here, we explore the hidden patterns behind behavior, identity, emotion, and the quiet mechanisms that shape who we become.